Plant and Prosper. I am your host, KD. I have some amazing people with me today. This is the show where we talk about all things cannabis. All of us work in the cannabis industry before regulation and now in 2018 with lots of fun regulation. So we thought we'd come up with this show to talk about all the things that are happening in the industry, provide accessible education, and tell you about some of the stories about how it's really going down here in California. With me, I have the rock and roller, the hip hop, the music extraordinaire, Lynn May. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So I've been in the industry 20 plus years.
Oh my God, you're an OG.
I'm an OG, yeah. All the way from seed to sale. Ooh. So had cultivation facilities, had dispensaries, but my focus is medicine. So currently I'm the CEO of a company called Canna Health. Yep. And what we do is we match your DNA profile with a phytocannabinoid profile to figure out what's the best kind of medicine, plant medicine for you.
Beautiful. So like a 23andMe, but for
23andMe for cannabis.
Perfect.
Correct. Yep.
And you're always wearing these rock and roll T-shirts all the time, and I never have any clue. So today, who are you wearing?
Well, this is a brand new band. They're just started.
What's the name?
It's called Black Sabbath.
Oh, they just started. Wow.
Probably late 60s, early 70s. Well,
I'm musically enough to know that rock and roll was like a 70s, 80s thing. This
oh
metal,
yeah, rock and roll
doesn't
exist anymore.
This is not even called rock and roll. That's metal, right?
Okay.
Heavy metal. It's heavy metal.
All right, so I'm gonna give you some clues. So Black Sabbath had a lead singer named Ozzy Osbourne. You probably know him from the MTV reality show, The Osbournes.
Or I probably know him from his wife, Sharon.
Yes.
There you go. That'll work. So yeah, this was a show, the last tour at the Hollywood Bowl.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's Black Sabbath.
So he's going to tell us all about cannabis and keep us on our musical feet.
That's right.
And then last but certainly not least, the beautiful, the amazing Anya Kravitz.
Thank you. So my background is in brand strategy, mainly in the health and wellness industry. I have been a brand strategist and a brand creator for the last 7 years. And currently what I do for the industry, I basically assist and help topical brands and beauty brands get launched or navigate through the industry, the cannabis industry, as well as the mainstream beauty industry.
Oh, you're perfect for that role.
Yeah.
Look at this necklace. I love it. I've never seen this before.
Thank you. This is actually a real cannabis leaf that's dipped in gold.
Oh, aren't you bougie?
I am.
You're definitely bougie. I like one of those.
I know. I could see you rocking something like on the little long chain there.
Right.
That'd be hot. How much was that? I was like, I don't know if I can afford a leaf dipped in gold.
That's right.
Mine would be with a little rose gold action.
Be jealous. Be very jealous.
And then a little bit about myself. I'm KD, as I mentioned, and I work in the industry specifically in marketing and really around elevating cannabis and showing consumers and stakeholders that there are new ways to market cannabis that doesn't involve Bob Marley or doesn't involve young kids getting super high, and that there's a whole spectrum to this industry. And really, I love the wellness aspect of cannabis, and I've been in the industry for about a little over a year. I feel like it's been 25. And so I think what would be a wonderful segue is for us to talk about what 2017 was, and then also share out 2018 sort of predictions. And for those who are watching, in 2017 in California, even though the law was passed, was it Prop 64? Was that officially what was passed?
Yes.
Where it was legal, all of the regulations, all of the licensing, all of the rules weren't in place. So it was kind of what we didn't know at the time, a free-for-all in 2017. And now, starting at Jan 1, all of these rules and regulations have been in place, and the game is completely different. So I did want to share out how 2017 worked for everyone, and then we'll circle back around and talk about 2018.
Cool. Did you say all the rules and all the regulations are in place in 2018?
Oh, I lied. That would make it seem like...
That's a surprise to me. I didn't know that.
Today, actually, before you get, I was at UCLA because they were sharing out Metric, which is the track and trace system that's for the state. And this is how the guy went. He was like, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. Will be defined. To be D. Can't answer that question. Find out in a couple months. Every single question. It was ridiculous.
That's the theme. That's what I see going on in 2018. And 2017, you're absolutely right. It was just like a race. Everybody started getting ready to get ready. So getting everything together to go file for licenses, but they don't know what type of license to file, what to do, and then people were getting ready to get ready, and kind of some of them missed the boat. They never actually file on time, so they're sitting and kind of operating this grayish type of area right now.
For people who do not understand just generally like how licenses and permits and all these things work, could you just sort of like lay out like what is a license, what does that actually mean, what were the different types?
There's a state license and there's a municipal license. So in order to qualify for a state license that gives you the ability to operate in the recreational space or even medicinal space, there are different types of license for cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and transport. In order for you to apply for a state license, you have to get a municipal license from your local municipality. The issue is that a lot of municipalities never had the regulations to issue you your municipal license. So you can't, until you get that, you can't really apply for a state one. So then they had all kinds of different regulations about how many licenses can you have. So can you be a cultivator, a distributor, and a retailer at the same time? So can you actually transport your own medicine? How do you collect the fees? Who collects the taxes? So those are all the things that are being worked through. So LA has issued some temporary licenses. The state has issued some temporary licenses or some licenses for those businesses that are operating right now. Cultivation, and you have different types of cultivation license depending on how big your canopy is, how much you're allowed to cultivate.
So basically it's just a cluster.
It's a big cluster right now, yes.
It's just
Absolutely.
this metric of like cities. I was like, I'm in the industry and I was just like, I'm kind of getting lost in what, like, am I cultivation, am I manufacturing, am I distributor, et cetera.
And with that said, let's just quickly recap of what happened in 2017.
Okay, go for it.
2017, I mean, it was just a playground. I feel like you could have done anything and everything as far as events and promoting your product. It was so much easier to do that. And this year it's not, and it's getting more. It's going to be even more difficult to do that as we progress into the legalization.
You know what I really want you to talk about?
Tell me.
She's being so humble because you threw an event that was featured in Rolling Stones as one of the hottest, poshest pop parties. That's actually where we first worked together. It was actually one of the, you were not there? I was talking to you, Lynn.
I was not there.
You were not there, but it was amazing. So why don't you tell a little, because I mean, I was one of the sponsors. Up until like I showed up at this event, I had no idea what was going on. And I had seen decks, I had been on calls, and I'm like, oh, this just blew my mind.
So the event, I was part of an organizing team, and it was more of an educational / census event for cannabis. So we did, the setting was in Malibu, and it was a celebration of 5 senses, including cannabis, and cannabis was the main star of it. So, and we took the audience.
A huge mansion,
Yes.
overlooking the
Were you medicated? Were you medicated during that time?
I was medicated. I was taking so many selfies because literally there was a sofa that was on the ledge outside that looked into the water. And so like everyone's taking photos, and then the 5 senses, it was sight, and that was painting. So was that correct?
Sight was, I don't remember.
Yes.
Possibly.
And then sound. Then for
bath,
sound, there was a beautiful sound bath
Yeah.
where everyone, after they had, either there was the vape bar or there was, I believe, mocktails.
Yes.
So there was all these different types of ways to medicate. So the sound bath was amazing.
Can I guess something?
Okay.
Was there like a panda mask for a certain size.
Okay,
so you have
obviously
to
you've
eat.
seen some photos.
No, obviously I was there.
Were you there?
Yes, I was there.
Did we talk when we were there?
I don't know. We were heavily medicated, so I'm not sure. But it was a great experience.
I completely don't remember you being there.
He was there. He was
was
totally
there.
there. And by the way, it was his birthday. By
It was
the
my
way,
birthday.
on May
12.
2. Was it May 12?
Yes.
Well,
Anyway.
Well, okay. So for reference, when we were for taste, or was that the
Where taste was, we had
you
like
were
a beautiful-
blindfolded, so that's probably why I didn't recognize you. And
That's
we
right.
were eating medicated food, African food,
Which
with
was
our
bomb.
fingers.
Bomb,
All
yeah.
of it's
Yes,
amazing.
yes.
It was a lot of levels though,
Yes.
between the African and you couldn't see it, and it was medicated, and you had to use your fingers.
Yeah, and it was
So
a
the-
drink too.
There was a
right?
drink,
Yes.
and I remembered like touching a bone. Was there a bone? Was it meat?
It was it was like for vegetarians.
I don't eat
and
meat, so they
So I
gave me.
like-
So I'm touching this. I'm like, feels like a bone. I'm not sure. How
It was meat, but also with vegetarian options.
Okay,
well, they're
thank you for
messed up.
clarifying
Yes,
that.
yes.
And then the part that I loved was the scent. So you learned about the different aromatherapies. So you would smoke lavender, and then they put your head in this big bag of weed because it really enhanced the terpenes and the smells that,
was
were
my
there.
favorite, the essential
I
oils.
love that part.
Yeah.
I love that part.
So this year, these types of events are going to be difficult to do. You have to have a license, and you have to have it in a zoned area, and there's just so many layers upon layers upon layers. And yeah, but last year it was, even with launching a brand, it was so much easier.
Well,
Boom.
last year you didn't have to have child-resistant packaging, which is
Exactly.
now a requirement. And for a small brand, if you already had invested in a lot of packaging, you had to reinvest in new packaging. And you might not have child-resistant packaging for cannabis-specific products, so then you would have to create them. I also think just giving product away. So last year, if someone was interested in product, I mean, we literally was just like, okay, here's some product, please try, whether it was a press or an influencer, et cetera. And this year, you can't do that.
You can't do that. And then last year we also did pop-up shop series where we brought in new and emerging brands, health and wellness brands, where we had the brands educate the audience, also introducing them with CBD mocktails, and also just more of a cannabis shopping experience, a normal cannabis shopping experience, more of a market style. This year you can't do that unless it's CBD.
It's very
And I would say it
disappointing.
wasn't
Very.
normal, actually. I thought it was breakthrough because the normal shopping experience is still going into a dispensary.
Yeah.
Most of them still look like a liquor store or a package store in the corner. So what I think you're talking about was last year there was a lot of innovation where people were doing these farmers markets that were outside or these pop-up shops because that's how most customers are used to it. Like you don't think that you have to go to a liquor store to buy a topical or to buy what you consider your medicine.
And cannabis is an experience. You have to experience it as you're learning about it. Touch and feel is so important. And unfortunately this year you can't do that. Which is a shame. And how can you convince a customer that you have an amazing product without them trying it or going through hoops and hoops and hoops to give them a sample?
Well, I do think the plus side, and one of the reasons why I think people voted for it without necessarily thinking about all the regulations, and I did hear that like some of the OGs actually didn't vote for it, which now I'm starting to understand why, because the government is coming for your freaking money.
Yeah.
Is what I have learned. But one of the reasons why all these regulations were in place was for better transparency for consumers, right? It was about this idea of how can I provide safety, transparency, because there are a lot of shady people in the industry where they might be using bad pesticides on their products. They might be using distillate that they ordered off that Alibaba.com website. And there be metals, and there is a lot of issues where people are not selling clean medicine.
But some people don't know. Like, it's not everybody being shady. Some people don't really know. And then when they're cultivating or they're selling the
Which
product.
is worse.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They don't know what they're putting. You don't know what you're putting in your body. The whole 2017, I basically didn't go into a dispensary. I had free medicine everywhere I went. So I had a bag of free stuff. And it was let's try this, let's try that. This doesn't feel really good. Why? I have no idea what I'm putting in my body. There's no test results, none of that stuff. So you may be consuming heavy metals, you may be consuming pesticides, and that's, I agree with your point.
And the risk of that, right, is that people are not going to be like, well, it was that heavy metal, and they're going to be like, the weed was bad, and weed's horrible, and really it could have been that you just had, you worked with a cheap producer, or like it was old, or it was just like something was, you know, maybe you had a reaction to pesticides or the metals. And I feel like if you went to the doctor and the doctor gave you whatever meds, and I couldn't even tell you a med because I haven't been to a doctor in
a hot minute.
Decades. Decades, you guys. I'm an herbalist. That's not quite right.
I'm with you on that.
I try to like be like, I'm sick, orange juice. Like that's literally like the intent of what I do. But I think
it's working. You're still standing here.
Thank you. But we don't know what's happening on the inside.
Who cares? At least you look great on the outside.
Thank you for that support. But I think, you know, when you are going to the doctor and you're trying these medicines, you hear these people like, yeah, you know, it solved my hair loss, but my pinky now is twitching, and that's okay. Like you have all these weird, like the drug commercials, it's just like might cause like anal bleeding, and that seems to be okay because it's solving a problem. People don't tend to give that same leniency or like open period to cannabis. So it's just like that one brownie 18 years ago might have them off the product the entire, you know, for the rest of their lives.
Oh yeah,
which is,
I'm never trying this again.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So 2017 was awesome. Let's move on to current times.
Well, how are you feeling about 2018?
2018, I'm just sitting back and kind of watching to see how things are going to play out. I think it's a clusterfuck, and nobody knows what anyone is doing. I think it's unfortunate for the patient that needs the medicine, because the medicine is so expensive. The taxation is crazy, and the tax is different in each different municipality, so which is so complicated, and it's sad because the taxes are so high, and most of the patients that really need the medicine will not be able to afford it. I'm a patient. I suffer from grand mal seizures, and it's been a year since I transitioned from my pharma to cannabis. And if I wasn't really working in the industry or knew people in the industry, I would not be able to afford my medicine on the daily. So
why don't you walk for people who might not understand what a pricing looked like for a product for you in 2017 and now what it would look like for you in 2018? So
2017, I can walk into a dispensary and buy a tincture, let's say a Fiddler's Roof AC/DC. Okay, it would be each dispensary charges differently. So let's say 65 plus 9% tax. Today, I will go into that dispensary, same dispensary, and it would be 65 plus up to 30% tax. So, which is incredibly expensive, and that's the experience. Nothing. It's just it's an added cost, and that a lot of people can't absorb because this medicine is not covered by insurance. There's no alternatives. Very, very small.
Because you could even argue that the medicine was expensive in 2017. Like a lot of cannabis products are for the high-end sort of market. You don't really tend to find, I think, like the affordable like there's expensive, slightly expensive, and there's just really not something at the bottom. Not to suggest low quality, but just to suggest like there is a consumer segment, a large consumer segment, that can't necessarily afford a $90 product for what they're solving for.
And each dispensary carries different merchandise, so some dispensaries don't even carry quality products also. But Len has a lot to say on that.
I just think the difference is that there's medicinal and there's recreational. So on the medicinal side, if you're consuming cannabis and you're smoking it, you can grow your own and you can control your own source for yourself. But if you want to have products, tinctures, sublinguals, all that stuff, you're forced to go into a dispensary. And there's local tax, there's excise tax, there's state tax, there's cultivation tax, and it really, really boosts up the amount of medicine you actually are going to consume. So somebody that needs it for medicinal purposes, that person is going to be suffering because they're going to be paying something like $90 for something they paid $50 or $60 for before.
And I actually think for a lot of new consumers, they won't have anything to compare it to, because I actually was in a dispensary a couple weeks ago, and well, not a couple, yeah, it was a couple weeks ago, and they didn't tell me what the individual product price was. They just told me what the end price was. So I didn't, it wasn't that clear to me that like I'm paying 30% tax. It was just like, oh, this chocolate bar costs, $14. Like it didn't feel like the right price. And it's also now because a lot of brands didn't have enough time to get their products in child-resistant bags, which are these big white Ziploc bags that are opaque because
Well, that's an interesting thing.
they don't want kids
What
to
if
be
you-
able to see what's inside of them.
You did all this work in branding, right? And now you have to take all your hard work and put it into a bag that looks like everybody else's. How do you
Yeah.
differentiate your brand?
It's super sad, but what's even more sad, I think, is for the consumer, because how do you make a choice on what to buy when it's inside of a bag? You can't touch it, you can't pull it out, you can't really see it.
Have you tried to open one of those bags?
I can, they're adult resistant. You should
Exactly.
have brought one so that you can see, because I just use my scissors, honestly. I don't even play.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot quote on that.
Oh, do you have some secret talent at opening these bags?
No, definitely.
Maybe just get it in the bags.
Maybe she's in the bag business and she wants to protect her reputation.
I'm in all kinds of business.
Well, I mean, I heard the bag business actually. I tried to get some bags and it's a hot little commodity, which
Can't get
I
a
think
bag.
is an interesting, we should talk about that in a future show, is like, it might not be the people who are touching the product who makes the money. It's all these like side businesses that are going to be making.
Picks and shovels, right? It's like
Yeah.
in the gold rush. Everybody, doesn't matter if you find gold or not, everybody's wearing Levi's. Everybody needs a shovel. So those are the companies that are right now making money. And they're sitting through the
Service
regulations.
So final predictions for 2018. What are you hopeful for? What do you think will actually happen?
I am hopeful for, it's not going to happen in the beginning of the year, but it might happen towards the end of the year. I'm hoping for some, ease on the taxation of on products. And I'm hoping for some rules that don't make sense to kind of ease up a bit. And the thing is that it's hard for the consumer. The consumer right now is so inundated with all kinds of information, and they don't understand what they're buying, and all these rules are making it even more difficult for them to make these decisions. So my wish is that it will be slightly easier towards the end of the year. But for now, it's just a clusterfuck. And that's it.
So your thoughts, Lynn, and please share your perspectives. It's like you have a company that you are obviously trying to scale and grow, and so what does that mean for you as the year continues?
Well, I feel that there's a recreational market and there's a medicinal market. So people who need medicine need to have a different types of tax system, different types of pricing, and the availability to have more transparency. People who want a recreational product, that's their choice. What I'm looking at is for California to really lead the rest of the world. We are the sixth largest economy.
That's so true.
We have been the leaders in this industry from the very beginning, and now everybody's looking at us. So the OGs that didn't vote for this, they should have voted for this because this is where the spotlight is. The rest of the world is looking at us. So
I'm glad that you said that, because is it true that California would be the biggest, largest market? That like you don't even, in this industry, you don't even have to worry about the other states, because California.
I believe yes. I believe yes. But there's so much bureaucracy, and there's so much politics, and you have to understand that in California specifically, you have generational farmers. You have everything in here. You have your culture, you have your money, the investments, you have everything here. And and then you have your big, large growers that are trying to get a piece of the pie as soon as possible. And
We haven't even talked about that.
no, we haven't, but there's a lot going on with that, and it's nutty. But you have a melting pot of everything here, and everyone is fighting, and no one can find a common ground, and it's sad. And if we can all kind of, you know, work together and make it slightly easier, yeah, I think that California is and should be the largest, the
Yes,
best.
we work together.
Yeah, that whole kumbaya thing isn't going to work.
No, it's not going to work.
I mean, big business is coming in. People are funding things. There's millions and millions of dollars exchanged every day. You have the estimates right now, the best estimates are about $3.7 billion in 2018,
it.
up to $5 billion next 2 years, which coincides with like the beer industry, which was over $5 billion just in last year. So there's no reason why this is sixth largest economy in the world. We can't make $3 to $5 billion in revenue.
gonna be crazy.
There's that little farmer who I respect and love. I think their whole family creates amazing products. They may not be in business, so they have to start looking at consolidation. And if they're really smart and they streamline, they have some interesting strains, or they have created something interesting, let's partner. Let's work together. And that way, we can work together with the business side and with the consumer side and with the farmers, and all give each other a boost. But that's
So
the
you're
only way to
hopeful
make
for
it.
2018, and so you think that the solution is partnerships and collaborations, because you can't really survive at it alone.
That's the only way that you're going to
Because
be
these
able to do that.
licenses are tens of thousands of dollars, and
Tens of thousands of dollars, a lot of different layers, a lot of different regulations, and if you're going to survive, you have to be able to partner, because there is big money that's coming in. So you're either going to play the game, or if you stake your stake in the ground and you say no, well, you're either going back underground, great, for a while, or you're out of business.
well, my prediction for 2018 is that I think for the first couple of months, I think what you're going to see is a lot of companies, you know, being on the low. But I think that there's got to be a couple companies and a couple people who are going, like maybe by the middle of the year, who are going to do some amazing, crazy stuff. Like you can't look past the fact that this is California. It's going to be warm in summertime. This is going to be the first year that you can just walk down the street. You can use a service like Ease and get the weed delivered to you in like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's just, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of scary stories about people who initially get busted, but I think that people are going to push the limits, as they always do, because if you work in this industry, you're a risk taker. You were before, you will again. So I think we're just kind of in this like quiet time of like, you know, I want to follow all these rules and I'm trying to, you know, do all these things. But I think come like June, when it's that bikini season, I just think I think we're going to see a lot of interesting, fun things. I think hopefully the rules would have changed on the regulation side. But I think like innovative products, I think are going to come up, things we haven't even seen before. So I actually am pretty hopeful for 2018. But I do think that the loser probably is consumers with the taxes, and the small guy.
Yeah.
It's going to be, there's going to have to be some consolidation, some partnerships for them to be competitive. But I am hopeful, and I do believe that there is space in the market.
Oh, 100%.
It's huge.
Sure. Huge.
Like what we've seen is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, there's space for everyone, for every single.
All you have to do
anything.
is smoke up and get a little creative juices going, and who
And
knows?
innovate.
And I agree with you. It's sort of this quiet period where everybody's hibernating and waiting. They're waiting. Once the licenses start being issued, that innovation is going to go off. Yeah, and you know, my whole goal is to have a lot more guidance, so you can get a lot more personalization in your medicine. Whatever products you have, and it can be millions of different products, at least you know what you're putting in your body, and it works for you. So you want a tincture, you want a sublingual, whatever it is that works for you, that's really what's important. I'm going to predict there's going to be so many new interesting products, ways that you can consume cannabis. It's going to blow us away, and that will make us leader, not only with the investments going in here, but also with the innovation that's coming out of California.
And I can't wait to see what what the beauty industry is going to start producing. I want to see some. I'm kind of excited and anxious to see what how the largest companies are going to respond in the beauty industry, and what that's going to look like, and how that's going to prompt a smaller entrepreneur to create next level beauty products with THC and CBD, and what about other terpenes and cannabinoids and just beautiful plant-based formulations.
That sounds like a whole episode, which I'm excited for, and we are getting close to time on this one, which is our intro session. But I know we have something that we want to explore with, which is called our listener letters.
Yeah.
This is the idea that we want to hear from you about questions that you might have about the industry or about cannabis or about any products. And the lovely Miss Amazing Anya is going to talk us through our first one.
Yes, you guys. So before this episode, I did a little bit of digging and started asking. So I have a few questions here.
Watch it be a tough one.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a really good one.
Ooh, it's gonna be Len. Len's gonna
yeah.
answer it.
Len, this is actually really interesting.
How did I know?
Okay, so how does the DEA schedule drugs? Why is marijuana a Schedule I drug? It has proven scientific, medicinal value. So,
Say the question again.
the question again is, how does the DEA schedule drugs? Do you know that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, let's answer that first.
It's an arbitrary process. So the DEA scheduling started with Richard Nixon, and he made a decision to say that certain drugs go into certain categories. The drug scheduling is based on their medicinal purpose. Schedule I has 0 medicinal purpose. So why cannabis, marijuana is in Schedule I? I have my opinions on that.
Same.
It has to do with racism. It has to do with, I'm saying it.
He did
it
the
has
big
to do
R.
with anti-Semitism, and it has to do with being able to persecute the person that is supposedly a lower class. There's no reason why cannabis is Schedule I, because first of all, it was used as medicine for thousands of years. It was used in medicine currently it's used as medicine. There's 12 clinical trials going on in Israel and in Canada. We know the research is there. There's anybody can go to PubMed and look at the research that's peer-reviewed essays for what it does. So we know that it works and it has medicinal purposes. So it is all a political play, and we can do a whole episode on the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act and William Randolph Hearst and what happened in the first place to be able to start putting people behind bars. But if you look at private prisons and all that other stuff, start ticking down the information of when cannabis became a Schedule I drug and how the prison system benefited from that.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I like this answer.
Well, I think that was a solid question. So how can someone submit another listener letter?
Okay, you guys, you have to go to Instagram and type Plant and Prosper and ask away. We're waiting for all of your questions.
I love that. Well, that wraps up the first episode of Plant and Prosper. Again, this is the show where we talk about all things cannabis and give you the insider view of what's happening here in California. We wouldn't do this without you. This is a new show. We want to hear everything that you might have to say. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have any suggestions, any show topics, or if you want Lynn to wear a specific shirt, feel free to tweet or slide into our DMs. Thank you so much. Woohoo! Good job.
All right, guys, that's good.